सर्वोपनिषदो गावः दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्. A wonderful sunny morning is when two large armies had gathered. You can call it a Rubaru of those times. So they met face in face, face to face, facing each other, quite unsure of the outcome. While the two sides had gathered, there was one of those admired personalities of those times, a man of immense prowess and valor, who told his cousin, incidentally the king of Dwaraka, a happenstance to be a charioteer for a stipulated period, saying, I am not quite sure whether I have to fight this war. As he expressed his concerns, he also ordered his charioteer to place the chariot amidst in such a important position so that he could see both sides in a very impartial way. The charioteer was a obedient one. He immediately placed the ratham between the two armies. So this man expressed his concerns and his charioteer said, I will answer your queries. So this conversation between the two is very treasured, it is very revered. But the beauty is when it has happened many distances away. So if you consider the midpoint between army A and army B, so it will take many hands for them to stretch to reach either sides of the armies. Many feet away. The conversation just happened between the two. So, how do we know of the conversation today? Because eVidyaloka was born then. So, we had Sanjaya, who was in a distant place with the grace of his teacher, who could listen to a conversation that was not even heard to the people present there. So, the medium was, in a way, something very unique of those times. And that's how you have the quintessential knowledge of Bhagavad Gita born. So, eVidyaloka, in a way, traces its roots to the civilization. My point of bringing the civilization into a topic like this is because a country, a nation that doesn't learn from its past, that doesn't learn from its history, that doesn't learn from its civilization can never see a bright future. We have had a civilization, pluses, minuses, learn from the minuses, learn from the pluses, and try to see what best you can do of the pluses. So with this eVidyaloka that shares its characteristics to something that is as treasured as the Gita in the past, I thought I could just share the process of knowledge being dispensed in this nation. We often use 4 words in this process. One is prama, second is pramata, third is pramanam, fourth is prameyam. I will be explaining these names and I'll be asking questions as well. So if you have a notebook on your table and if you have a pencil that can write, and if you are used to writing, please make note of it because this is eVidyaloka, right? So the first one is prama, yathartha jnanam prama, real and knowledge as is prama. Suppose I am being recruited into eVidyaloka as let's assume I am a botany teacher. I will be explaining about the calyx, the corolla, the pollination that happens in the flowers. Then I'll be talking about the stamen. So I'll be talking about a lot of these terms that is associated with flowers. And of course, the topic goes on. I can talk about genus, species, chlorophytum, borivilianum, the binomial nomenclature and all of that. So this knowledge is prama. Yathartha jnanam prama. Knowledge as is prama. But knowledge can't speak by itself. It needs somebody to explain. So the teacher or the one who explains is the pramata. And the teacher has to rely on authentic sources of knowledge. The teacher can't just say, okay, I think there must be something called the corolla, because there have been people, botanists, who have worked immensely, and the teacher hopefully must have read those sources of knowledge. That compendium of knowledge is called pramanam. And the object of knowledge, so thereby the teacher dispenses knowledge to the student using a book. So thereby the student acquires the knowledge of the plants. So the knowledge of the plants is called prameyam. So for prameyam to be achieved, you need prama to be dispensed by pramata using the pramanam. So these are the words that we have technically deployed. Now, in all of this, I've spoken about the teacher, I've spoken about the recipient, I've spoken about the knowledge. But one thing that our scriptures very little discuss is the medium of knowledge. And that is where eVidyaloka plays a role, because Shastram talks about the teacher, it talks about the student, it talks about the knowledge, it talks about the book. But it doesn't say if a Rohit or a Suma has to receive knowledge from Bangalore, how is the medium going to be? Of course, I touched upon Sanjaya of Mahabharatam saying that it kind of mimics eVidyaloka. But to speak in real terms, we don't have that medium in picture. That is where eVidyaloka has done a huge revolution, I would say, because 2 weeks back, I had the bhagyam of hosting Sridhar Venkat, who is the CEO of Akshaya Patra Foundation. So if Akshaya Patra aims at providing nutritious, hygienic, home-like, lovable food to children across the country to bring them to school, eVidyaloka is the Vidya Akshaya Patra. It tries, because Akshaya Patra can always make beautiful, sumptuous, tasty rotis, because food is also one of the ways to actually bring children to school. But food stops at a certain level. The moment the child comes, for the child to come, you keep telling there are rotis and there is dal that is going to be given. But how long can you keep talking about the rotis and the dal? The child has to make roti and dal for himself or herself. That is when Akshaya Patra brings the child to the school. eVidyaloka makes the child live in the school. So sustenance is what eVidyaloka does. So this sustenance or this affiliation that eVidyaloka brings to children across the schools is very, very huge. That said, I saw something very interesting as a tagline to eVidyaloka, which is anytime, anywhere. Correct? Anywhere, anytime. If there is one work that today, even today, that brings different parts of the country, and I would extend it to the different parts of the larger subcontinent, the Southeast Asia together, you'll be surprised, it is the Ramayana. You go to the archipelago nation of Indonesia, to Bali, every evening you have a traditional dance called as a Kicak dance. So that's performed to commemorate the island's association with the Ramayana. You go to the if at all you or me or both of us, we are invited to the coronation of the king of the Thailand. The surname is Ramkeen because Ramayana is so important to them that their surname has to begin with a Rama. Around the 14th century itself, we had Persians coming to Bharatadesham and taking Ramayana to translate it into Persian. Of course, we know that Valmiki gave us Ramayana in Sanskritam, Kujantam Ramarameti. We are aware of Vagartha Viva Samprikthau of Kalidasa, of Raghuvamsham in Sanskritam. We know Janaki Haranam in Sanskritam, Pravarasena's Setubandhana Kavya in Prakritam. We have works like Abhisheka Natakam and Pratipa Natakam of Bhasa in the 1st century BCE. Besides these works on the Ramayana, the transcreations and the translations of the Ramayana in the Sanskrit language, if at all there is one transcreation, there is no translation, transcreation. You know which is the language in the world that came up with the first transcreation besides the languages we know? We know the Tamil Kambaramayanam, Kumara Valmiki's Kannada, Mulla Ramayanam and Ranganatha Ramayanam of Telugu, Tunjat Ramanuja Eluttachan's Ramayanam in Malayalam, Jaganmohan's Ramayanam in Odia, Kirtibasas in Bengali. We have Bhanu Bhaktacharya's in Nepali. Besides all these Ramayanams, the earliest transcreation of Ramayana was in a language called Javanese. It's called the Kakaveen Ramayanam. So that dates back to 1500 years. So if at all there is one work that can culturally, linguistically, art-wise link and integrate the country or the larger subcontinent, it is the Ramayana. In the Ramayana, we don't see dialogues of just a passers-by's dialogue. Every dialogue seems to have some kind of a hint given to us. I'll just give you an example. While I had the opportunity to talk to the Supreme Court Justice 2 weeks back, he made a very interesting comment. We know the judges always carry the black coat because that's how they have to drape themselves and adorn to deliver justice. So it's associated, the black, the color black, the attire which is coat is associated with the judge who has to deliver justice. In the 11th century, while Rama had to deliver justice as a king, the Tamil poet Kamban says, Karuppu udaithan anindu. He adorned, he himself was dark, so he sported the coat of dark, of the black. So the Supreme Court Justice was just telling me how well it is linked to the scriptures of the past. While we speak of Ramayana, towards the 6th canto, Yuddha Kandam, we come across this younger brother, Vibhishanastu Dharmatma. Shurpanaka gives him a certificate. Shurpanaka, while she introduces herself to Rama in Aranya Kandam, she is a widowed sister of Ravana. She falls in love, head over and heels, in love with Rama. She immediately says a lot more can happen over a cup of coffee. I am very close to its earliest outlet here. So he says, she says, I would love to marry you. And Rama says, I've promised to be monogamous in this avatara. She says she doesn't have a problem. He refutes, saying that he has a problem. And while this altercation takes place, she describes her legacy. She says, I am the sister of Ravana, Ravanaha Rakshaseshwaraha. I am also the sister to Kumbhakarna, who is known for his slumber. Incidentally, there is one of my brothers in the family who is such a misfit. He is known to follow every bit of the rule, Vibhishanastu Dharmatma. So Vibhishana is given a certificate by his very own sister. Later in the 6th canto, he advises Ravana that you have done a grave mistake. If commoners abduct somebody else's wife, the king has to deliver justice. If the king himself resorts to such tasks of bringing somebody else's wife, who is going to advise you? This isn't right. And you have brought a lady from a foreign country. So this is going to spoil our diplomatic relations. You just saw the diplomat who came in the mid of the night and caused so much of havoc to our country. So we may have to go ask for an aid. So Lanka went that early. So we may have to go ask for an aid, but we are not going to get one with the history that we have. So give her back. The brother says, I'm not used to listening to advices. That was his biggest plus point. So he said, I'm not used to listening to advices. You may have to find another country to live. So CAA was born then. So, so he had to shift all the way to Bharata. So when he came to Bharata, it was not an easy task. He was put to a refugee camp. So Sugriva said, see, why should we take people from the neighboring countries? If it's your economical problem, political problem, it's your problem. So why should we take? So that is when he says, I will express my concerns to Rama through you, Sugriva. You become my messenger and go speak to Rama. So that is when Rama is told that there is somebody who has come from Lanka. Rama was all surprised. He grinned ear to ear. He said, is it Ravana? Because he thought if Ravana is going to come, I can still avert the war and not cause so much of fuel rise. Right, I could still avert the war. He asked who it was. That is when the Vanara king from Kishkinda said, it is not Ravana, it is brother Vibhishana. And Vibhishana was called, and Vibhishana said that I would love to seek asylum in you, Rama. I feel what my brother has done to your wife is something that is not acceptable on any grounds. So I would like to come to your side. Now Rama is in a coalition. He is in coalition with Sugriva. So in coalition you need to respect your partners. So he asks Sugriva, what should be my decision? Sugriva said, you can never trust a brother who has deserted his other brother. Rama didn't answer because he is in a coalition, but he just thought to himself, a pot is calling the kettle black. He left his own brother Vali, and see, advices don't see themselves in the mirror. That is when Rama says in the Tamil version, Endru vandan endrundo, ingu vandan endrundo. To give asylum or help to a person, should you find reasons to not help that person? Saying, oh, he has come today. Had he come yesterday, I would have helped. He has come now. Had he come in the morning, I would have helped. He has come here. Had he come to my house, I would have helped. So place and time is no constraint to give asylum. Place and time is no constraint to giving knowledge. Anytime, anywhere finds its roots in Mahabharata. So, if eVidyaloka is from Mahabharatam and anytime, anywhere is from the Ramayanam, we need to understand how best, I've got 3 more minutes left. I have understood from the members of the board that they wish to tie up this eVidyaloka, their journey, with the larger country's agenda or vision, which is Amrit Kal. What does Amrit mean? I thought this was a question. Any guesses? What does Amrit mean? Nectar. What does nectar mean? See, of course, when you go to the dictionary, Miss Merriam and Webster's would say that nectarine-like is a often comparison that we make to literature. So when we sense the rays of the moon, we say nectarine rays because there is sudha in it. We believe that the moon carries nectar in it. That is why it is called Shodashakala Purnaha. It's called Vidhu. It's called as Chandra. It has something that cools you. It has something that provides you knowledge. So it's called Sudha. And as you said, nectar. Now we will again understand this Amrit to be the one which Devas consumed. Do you remember those Amrit Chitrakathas where the Devas were fighting for Amrit, and then once you have Amrit, what will happen? Immortality, you will never die. Remember, the philosophical thought in India is so grounded, if you're born, you have to die. Simple. So the Devas were with the misconception that they will never die. What Amritam in Ayurveda Shastra says is Rasayanam, that which will give you better longevity and will always mask your age. That is Amritam. So Indra was the name of the position and not of a person. So Indras will keep changing. So if the first Indra had consumed Amritam and if he was immortal, then the common noun would have become a proper noun. which isn't the case. So Amritam, which is a misnomer and a misconception that it will give immortality. Nothing will give immortality except one. What is that which gives immortality? While I just came here and they mentioned about Amrit Kal, I remembered one statement from an Upanishad. The first of the Upanishads, which is called Ishavasya Upanishad. Often we come across Dashopanishad. Isha, Kena, Katha, Prashna, Munda, Mandukya, Taitreya, Aitreya, Brihadaranyaka, Shvetashvatara. These are the 10 Upanishads that all the 3 greatest of the Acharyas have commented upon. The first is Ishavasya Upanishad. So there is this line. Avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amritam ashnuta is a statement. Avidyaya mrityum tirtva, with avidya cross mrityu. Vidyaya amritam ashnute, through vidya you will get amrit. This is the statement. Now it may seem so simple, yes. Vidyaya mrityum tirtva. Now comes the problem. What is vidya? What is avidya? What is avidya? Yeah? Ignorance. This is what will come up. But the commentator doesn't say so. I'll tell you how. Vidya is knowledge. Avidya is that which is not knowledge, which is action. Avidya means action. Through avidya, Upanishad says, avidyaya mrityum tirtva. Mrityu is impurity. Through actions, you can overcome impurities. The impurity of lethargy, the impurity of forgetfulness. Many of us probably may complain, I don't know, not people here because you're all associated with eVidyaloka, so you'll all be bundle houses and repositories of knowledge. But many people do complain to me, sir, we read so much, we study so much, but when we want to remember, we have this forgetfulness, we are not able to remember. Some of you have this problem. So it's called as pramadata. In Sanskritam, the word for forgetfulness is pramadata. Incidentally, in the modern parlance, when something is extremely exquisite, people say pramadam. It is pramadam. For them, pramadam means excellent. But pramadata in Sanskrit means forgetfulness. So if after attending an event, if people ask you how it was and they say pramadam, which means they've comfortably managed to forget. So pramadam is forgetfulness. Lethargy, alasya. These are all things called as impurities to our mind. So the only way impurities can be driven away is through action, which is avidya, that which is not knowledge. Avidyaya mrityum tirtva. Through actions, impurities can be won. If actions are performed and impurities are cleansed, then what is the path in front of you of knowledge? Vidyaya amritam ashnute. Through vidya, through knowledge, you get amritam, which is you win over death. What is winning over death? You get knowledge. So through knowledge, you receive the highest form of bliss. That is what I thought is very related to the Amrit Kal, because look at this line. Vidyaya amritam ashnute. Through vidya, you get amrit. So where is the E? What is the name of the Upanishad? Ishavasya Upanishad. So Ishavasya Upanishad says, through vidya you get amrit. So Amrit Kal so beautifully wraps itself with eVidya. So keeping this, I would love to thank all of you for this patient listening. Something that comes as a suggestion or a humble request to any person who's involved in the process of knowledge dispensing is, our country is a country that respects every branch of knowledge. Coming from the science stream and then becoming an engineer, people often ask me, oh, after engineering, why did you start giving lectures? So giving lectures is somewhere down. Engineering is somewhere high. We are engineers who can't even fix the fuse. So we are that equipped to be engineers. So don't keep any branch of knowledge superior to the other. Every branch of knowledge deserves its own place. Agreed that in the modern parlance, some branches of knowledge, when pursued as a profession, are better remunerative than others. That I'm not denying. But a branch of knowledge itself can't be superior to the other. So, this branch of knowledge, every branch of knowledge being equal or the best among equals, is the civilizational ethos that we have carried with ourselves. So, eVidyaloka, when it dispenses knowledge across different villages of the country, should not, I'm sure they're not doing it, but I'm just telling you, it's a general suggestion. No 2 or 3 streams alone deserve better attention. Humanities is another branch that we often miss concentrating on. And the next part is multilingual. So, if a student is not comfortable with English, ತಮಿಳ್ಲಿಯೇ ಪೇಸலாம், ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೇ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೋದು. Every language, ಭಾಷಾ ಗೀತಿ ಪ್ರಶಸ್ತ ಭಗವತಿ ವಚನಾತ್ ರಾಜವಚ್ಚೋಪಚಾರಾತ್. Speaking a few pronouns of the definite and the indefinite articles from the Wren and Martin wouldn't make me any superior to a person who speaks in Malayalam or Tamil. So, Indian languages and being multilingual and giving equal respect to all languages is extremely important to be judgmental and to go on the path of knowledge. And the last part, there's a statement, Vidya dadati vinayam. True knowledge is that which bestows humility. Knowledge without humility is arrogance. So, Vidya dadati vinayam. eVidyaloka is doing a stupendous task of dispensing knowledge point A to point B, and that point B could be in any part of the country's geography. This is a stupendous job. So, Vidya is being dispensed. How do we teach Vinayam? Vinayam comes through a teacher. So, the erstwhile education where the child would learn knowledge from the Guru and humility, Vinayam from Guru Mata, is what made the rulers a perfect concoction of knowledge and humility. So, there should be subtle ways, simpler ways, less economical ways to drive in Vinayam into the children. Vidya, there is a process. Vinayam, how? That's why when people, when they get out of the temples, they say, this priest was arrogant. Quite true, because he has received Vidya, but not Vinayam. So, Vinayam is what should be married to Vidya, and I'm sure eVidyaloka is already doing it. Kudos to all the members of this wonderful board, to the volunteers, to the teachers, to the students, and to the parents of those children. Namaskar.